Putting
Oh,
it back on. Yes, okay, it's
thank you.
recording now. Recording now.
Thank you very much. The recording just came back on. We said in the beginning our opening prayer, Al-Fatiha, in both Arabic and English, for those of us that didn't get a chance to hear it earlier. And I apologize for not hitting the recording button. Now, I was just welcoming everybody to the program this afternoon. Our program is really dedicated to civic education, civic engagement, and we try to put our faith into practice. I'll say that again. The program is really dedicated to civic engagement, civic education, and we try to demonstrate our faith in action by having special guests on who really engage in civic opportunities and some civic duties that they're currently engaged in as elected officials. And this evening, we have a number of different people from North Carolina and perhaps other states who are part of the coordinating committee for the Poor People's Campaign being led by Dr. William Barber. We want to invite them to join us as soon as our elected officials make their presentations. Our general tradition in this program is to start off with the two opening questions. We called it breaking the ice questions. And the question basically centers around this. During the course of this week, what really has your spirit elevated? And for those of us that use our Arabic, we say, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, something that caused that to rise up in your spirit. And at the same time, what caused you to, really wonder what in the world is happening in the world today because of the things you have witnessed that disturb your soul? So what things elevated your spirit and what things disturbed your soul during the course of the week? And try to relate it if you can to current events that have taken place over the last few days. As an example, I'll start it off. This week I was participating in Gastonia, North Carolina, in a Moral Monday movement, a little small town in North Carolina. And I also participated in the Get in Good Trouble rally honoring Congressman John Lewis. May Allah forgive him for all of his shortcomings and grant him paradise. We had in the rally about 200 people, intergenerational, interfaith, young, more mature, the whole gamut of people. And we had speaking people from the younger groups all the way up to the more seasoned people who've been involved in community activities. Well received. We had a group that sang songs, I call them traditional songs from the mountains. They joined the effort. We had young people giving their perspective on what they perceive as the essence of, Congressman John Lewis and his sacrifices. And all of them could relate back to Bloody Sunday and what happened when he was just a young man trying to give us all an opportunity just to vote in this country. So I was inspired by that quite substantially. And you had about 8 different organizations who put that all together. And they had them across the country, actually. It was, I think, July 17th, Day of Good Trouble for many groups across the country. So I was glad to be a part of that here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. What disturbed my soul a little bit was simply watching these children trying to get food and being killed in the process in Gaza. And it just bothers my soul. I guess I see so many babies dying, so many mothers crying, and so many fathers praying. And I hope that we can see the barbarity in that and put pressure on those responsible for it to bring some relief to those people who have been slaughtered like cattle under the guise of democracy. So those are my two. Now I'll pass it on to my beloved sister, Sister Amatullah. Then we'll go to our brother Shabazz and Judge Shahid.
Okay, of course, the Gaza situation just constantly disappoints me. But one thing that was also very disappointing, just make me shake my head as far as what are we doing, is, and maybe I mentioned this last week, but thinking on it some more, how our State Department sanctioned Francesca Albanese for her report and the the administration's put forward, um, you know, uh, pushing for the defunding of UNRWA, which is the agency that provides support and humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. And that,
Yes.
that goes in with your, but it's not something that I guess should surprise us because at the same time, you see how they deported so many hundred Haitians back to Haiti, which is embroiled in governmental conflict that we have been a part of for hundreds of years, causing problems in Haiti. So that's enough of the downer. Now, what has me um, joyful or hopeful, I'll say hopeful, is um, seeing the seeing the growth of individuals in our community. I'll say that. I'm not sure if you were on Study Al Islam yesterday when Imam Muhammad Abdul Alim gave a
Mm.
presentation and he was giving a history of our community from the Nation of Islam to the transition to Universal Islam. And what was just so encouraging to me was that the level of his scholarship, his presentation content, and I had worked with him in New York at the Muhammad University of Islam before the nation, and then shortly after the transition. He was the other, and every Tuesday, the teachers, we would have a meeting with the minister. He was the most quiet brother of the brother teachers we had at that time in the room. I can't
Mm.
remember if I ever heard him say two or three words, to be honest. And to see him make that presentation and just the depths and the scholarship of the presentation, I was like, the Imam has planted seeds, and we're seeing the results of those seeds that were planted. And so it just was a reminder of how Allah blesses whom He pleases, and um, and that so many of us have gifts and potential that we have to really work to develop and to bring forward and to be committed. That was one word that he stressed in his presentation, that we have to be committed today. Just as those who may have been in the Nation of Islam were committed to that effort, we have to be even more so committed to this effort, which is based on the guidance of the Quran and the life example of Prophet Muhammad. So that's it for me. Sorry to take so long. You're on mute, Brother Fleming.
All
Yeah.
right, Judge Saheed, would you share your thoughts on that same matter? And then we'll go to our Councilman Shabazz.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The first point that causes me to be hopeful is as a Muslim, we're reminded in our holy book that people plan. In fact, people that have no regard for God and for his plan for the human family, but God plans, and the best of planners is Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to remember that no matter how distressed we get by what we see, none of this would be possible if it were not in God's plan. So as Muslims, we have to be patient, have sabr, and trust God and trust his timing on things.
Yes.
Uh, on the other side, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was in Indianapolis about a week or two ago. And I was fortunate to be there in the audience. And one of the questions she was asked, I think it was toward the end, and that's what I adopt basically her concern. They said, what keeps you up? The question was, what keeps you up at night? And the answer that she gave was, what concerns her is the threat to democracy, the threat that exists to democracy. And if I could just make one very specific reference, since, I represent the legal side of some of these discussions. The First Amendment of the Constitution is very short. The First Amendment of the Constitution says, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And here's the part that I want to focus on. And this connects with the budget that was just passed by Congress, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press and the right of the people to peacefully assemble. I just want to focus on that part where it talks about freedom of speech and or the press, because what we see presently is in the budget is the trying to stifle the freedom of press. And one of the things that was targeted is funding for PBS, public broadcasting station, PBS. And PBS, and I'm sure we'll probably get into this, there's the National Public, NPR, National Public Radio. But that funding that was authored by the President of the United States will impact rural communities, small communities, where local reporting is done through the funding that has been basically wiped out. Over $1 billion has been wiped out from PBS and NPR. And this will impact small communities and stifle the freedom of press and freedom of speech. And the targeting of the press and freedom of speech is meant to undermine democracy. So, like Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I see this as the budget and the defunding of NPR and PBS as a threat to democracy because it stifles any criticism of the elected leaders.
Thank you, Judge Shaheed. Councilman Shabazz?
First of all, thank you, Brother Fleming, for allowing me to be on this, excuse me, this very distinguished panel, very important discussion. Let me open up with Assalamu alaikum, greetings to all of the people who are listening. And I would say for the thing that really has me disconcerted, concerned, and I join with you and the sister, the Gaza situation has to tug at your heart, regardless of your political persuasion or your religious preference, to see human beings subjected to what those brothers and sisters in Gaza are going through just trying to eat. But even worse than that, I would submit, is what's happening in Sudan, which has been going on for a longer time with more people. And then in the Congo, the same kinds of situations, wholesale slaughtering of people, exploitation, hunger, starvation, the use of hunger as a weapon, the use of rape as a weapon, in all of those countries and nations. And that is really a low point, and it has to be something that's an ongoing irritant to us as not only Muslims, but as human beings, and something that we have to work against. But what has elevated my spirit, in addition to being a local elected official, I'm proud to be the president of the Atlantic City branch of the NAACP. And we have been working in coalition with a group called Indivisible, which was active in the July 17th activities on the anniversary of our beloved brother, Congressman Lewis, and also other activities. And I think I relate to what Judge Shaheed said. We have a very serious threat to our democratic uh, government, our democratic values, our democratic system. And those of us who happen to be people of color have to be acutely aware of this, because to the extent that democracy has not worked for us as we would have liked it, we have to understand that if democracy goes down, that the system that replaces it, authoritarianism and repression, will be even worse for those people who are under resourced and at the bottom. So I identify with that. I think that we are called to coordinate, to link up. Imam Muhammad said it best. He said, "Get with people of like mind." And I think that's our challenge for the rest of 2025, going into the midterm election of 2026. Is our challenge to not only mobilize people, but to meet people where they are and to engage them to not only a political struggle, because people get tired of that. They hear those of us who are elected say this is the most important election in our lifetime, and people say, yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear that, Shabazz. You're trying to get elected. You're trying to get people you support elected. But I think we have to speak directly to people and tell them that their absolute way of life is being challenged by a man who was duly elected, but who wants to have a country that it only works for those who are privileged, those who are resourced, and those who are white. And I say that we cannot stand for that, and we have to unite and fight back.
Thank you, Councilman Shabazz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave out our sister Cheryl. I think she's back online. Sister
Yes,
Cheryl, you back with us? Are you on
she
mute,
is. But
Sister
she's
Cheryl?
on mute. She's on mute.
She's on mute. Okay, then.
Zero members of Team Clark.
¿Qué pasa?
Present.
¿Qué
Oh,
pasa? Hola, ¿qué pasa?
bien, bien. Hola, hola, hola.
What it is, what it is, what
Comment
it is.
allez-vous? Comment allez-vous?
Hi.
It's Honorable Cheryl Sudduth, for those who don't know.
Honorable Judge Shaheed, Honorable Councilman Sir Chase, and Brother Ishmael. And I always get this wrong. Is it Lamb? Sister
No,
Amatullah?
well, actually, it's Amatullah Umrani.
Amatullah.
Oh, Sister
Amatullah
Amrani.
Alaji-Sabrie. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She called in last week too. And to my co-host, ¿Qué pasa? What you want to know?
What city are you in?
Oh, and what city I'm in? I'm in Atlanta. And so I was a little taken aback because it's southern storming, right? So I'm walking down the street. I was trying to take I don't have physical therapy this week because I'm away from home. So I said, let me take a walk. And of course it said the route was 8 minutes. 48 minutes later. Because I took the wrong turn.
Whoa.
And then I don't know if you can hear it, but now it's like it's the summer storm. So it started raining. And now it's thundering. So I said, let me get back into the hotel.
Yes, yes.
Because yeah. So I'm in Atlanta. I'm here for the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. We have our national conference here. And I'm also going to be going over to Spelman Learn to girls in science, in STEM, but most focus on science. It's a lightning. I don't know how you, I love storms. So let me tell you, I heard you ask 2 questions, brother and sister. Let me tell you, I spent several years here as a student at Spelman and coming back and forth. Then it was such a better memory because, yeah, when both of my sons decided to go to Morehouse, every time I came here, I left with a lighter bank
I
account.
know you did.
So, and it's still that way right now. I think I owe more than I owe my Wells Fargo for my mortgage. But I keep doing it. I do it again. I tell people it's well worth the investment. I would say that what bothers me more than anything is it's going to be off. I don't want to repeat what anyone else is saying, but taking the walk and walking down here in downtown Atlanta, I'm just disappointed in looking at a lot of the young Black men. So I'm just gonna be honest. I can only be honest. That's the only way I can be. I'm just like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening to these young men? Just the way they dress, the way they present themselves, the way they hold themselves. It's just they can't even make eye contact, right? When you're walking down the street. And that's something we were taught. You walk down the street and you see someone, you make eye contact and you just say hello or good afternoon or good morning or whatever. The ones who are a little older, I don't mean the really young ones, like, under 30. The ones over that, they did that. They would look and they say, good morning, how you doing, sister? Or something like that. The young ones, something self-conscious. They will see you, will look at you, and then look down at the ground. And it's very disheartening. I've spent a lot of mentoring girls, with young women, Black and brown young men. So I would like, at some point, Sister Amatullah, Brother Fleming, I would like us to have a show to not only what's happening, but what we can do for these young men, because it's quite disheartening. It makes me full of joy and hope. Being here and seeing so many people. Our conference starts today, but I came over the weekend. But seeing the influx of Black and brown people and working class people, because I don't think that has an ethnicity to it, in positions of influence and power. I'm going to the Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus, the Congressional Caucus, in about a month and a half. And that always brings me joy to see so many people stepping up. Instead of just complaining about what's happening in our government, they're doing exactly what we advocate on this show with civic engagement and political participation. And that's what brings me hope and it brings me joy. Es todo. Sir?
Thank you very much. I have to make one reference real quick for 5 seconds only. I'm literally at Johnson C. Smith University now in the library on campus. My grandson is going to the 8th grade. He's on a camp this week here. It's called Impact, but it's based on technology, social development, and of course, sports. And so it's quite a few kids on the campus. But I just walked across the campus to get my bite to eat before we started this program, and every single person I walked past spoke, which was so uplifting to me because I've been on campuses where that was not the case. So to make that kind of connection, I felt like I was back at Cornell College in 1970, many, many moons ago. And we connected with each other. We never would pass each other without speaking. Let me get away from that, though, because that's a whole different conversation. Our topic for this evening, for our all invited guests, and we have many coming on too. Some have had difficulty because there was a challenge today coming on. We want to look at this big B bill, and I'm going to let you define the B in your own way. I'm going to leave that alone because this is a family program. But I want to identify some specifics about this B bill. For most of us, when we think of a budget, we think of two things. What kind of revenue is coming in or income, and what kind of expenses are going out. So your, revenue minus expenses will give you some kind of budget. If it's positive, it's a surplus. If it's negative, it's a deficit. That's the general way we operate a household. Federal government should operate very similarly if they had a simple budget. But as I said earlier, if you look at the Big B bill, it's almost 900 pages to that bill. And you got to have the interest to really read through each department to see how they've been affected. I did the executive summary earlier. I'm going to share with you this evening some that specifically affects the state of North Carolina, and then we're going to open it up and let the judge and our elected officials share their perspectives, and then we'll go to the people that are impacted specifically from the North Carolina Coordinating Committee participants this afternoon, because they're dealing with people who are directly impacted with these cuts and with these projected atrocities behind this Big B bill. For those that don't know, this bill is designed to have an impact on our economy for 10 years. 10 years, and that's a whole decade. Usually, a president comes into office, he has a 4-year budget that he submits to Congress, and they debate it back and forth. It's finally approved. It impacts us for 4 years. This current administration has gotten the Senate, even though it was a 50-50, and the vice president had to come in and break the tie. It's a 10-year budget. Impact on your lives. On the other side, Congress, I think it passed by 3 votes. So it wasn't quite as close, but it was very close. Nevertheless, both Senate and Congress have adopted this bill that will impact us for 10 years. So I don't want you to be deceived by this idea that it's a short-term bill. And the tragedy behind this is that some of the elements of it won't go into effect until after the primaries for next year. So some of us may not feel the impact until primary for congressional seats are over and done with. That's why I really want to keep us informed about the tricks they're trying to pull, and keep your eye on this budget. If you notice, very recently, they've okayed some of the things that guy from South Africa proposed. They finally got the green light from the Senate and the House to make those cuts. They're drastic cuts. I'll give you a specific example. Judge Shahid gave you one earlier, but there's also one that directly impacts universities' research opportunities. Now, if you aren't doing research and you're taking money out of states dealing with public education, for example, North Carolina, because of this bill, will lose about, I'll give you the exact number here. I don't want to give you anything but the truth here. I got to take my glass off so I can read it. North Carolina received $35.4 billion in the 2024 fiscal year in federal grants. That's in 2024. The proposed House and Senate budget will reduce that substantially. They also received $30 billion in state and local governments for education, workforce development, child care, and more, and about $3 billion to individuals such as SNAP benefits, Pell grants. These funds equal the state's entire general fund budget. Additional federal building supports universities, nonprofits, other public agencies like housing authorities, and more. Federal funding helps 2.4 million North Carolinians access health care, provides child care for more than 38,000 children and their working parents, offers food assistance for 1.6 million North Carolinians, supports education services for more than 200,000 children with disabilities, and provides housing assistance for more than 175,000 households. Now, you can look up the facts behind this bill for your state. I would advise you to do that. Look at what the states actually are suffering from. And this is a general formula. They're trying to reduce federal obligations and pass it down to states. Now, those of us that have a sense of history know that the federal budget is substantial. State budgets somewhat are struggling just to maintain current state obligations. So they have not been totally dependent upon some of those federal dollars, but some programs have. Let me give you some specific on the cuts in North Carolina. Tax cuts for the wealthy at the expense of North Carolinians. The richest 1% of North Carolinians will get on average a tax cut of nearly $60,000, while the bottom 60% will receive less than $1,000. In 2026, North Carolina's richest 1% would receive $1.8 billion in tax credits or cuts. Extending these tax cuts would add $4.2 million to the federal debt over the next decade, mostly to benefit the wealthy. Now, we're going to talk more about the specific cuts when it comes to Medicare, SNAP, and other expenses as we go on with the program. But I just want to give you an umbrella perspective or a macro perspective on how this impacts just one state. The same applies across the country as well. It'll only vary somewhat in numbers based on your population. But the general principle is that there's an effort to push back federal responsibilities down to states, some of which can even afford to maintain their programs they have going now without some kind of federal assistance. Just look at what's happening with FEMA, that tragedy in Texas. That rescue effort ideally was done by local, but the FEMA component of that was critical. The same in the western part of North Carolina. When that storm came through and almost totally devastated a quite large region, the state of North Carolina up in the mountains, they cannot restore that without federal assistance. So this idea that states are closer to the event, states know more, states can do a whole lot better with federal assistance instead of without it, because in the end, people suffer. Fortunately, and I'll end with this administration tried to hold back money already allocated for public education across the whole country. Now, each county, of course, has a board of education that will determine how much money they would not be able to accept or have in their budget this current year, because they're looking at summer programs. September's right around the corner, and they had already allocated those funds for specific programs. Now, they have released some of the funds, but there's quite a substantial amount of it that has not been released, and that's hurting your average citizen. The average citizen, the children in those public schools will be directly impacted. Now, I don't want to spend all of my 30 seconds on this. I want to give people a chance to directly impact it, to make a comment. And I know some of them, if they simply raise their hand from the North Carolina Coordinating Committee campaign for the Poor People's Campaign, we're going to recognize you to make your comments on this budget at this point. So if you simply raise your hand, we'll recognize you to make your comments at this point. Please feel free.
Brother Fleming, before you move to the next 30-second segment.
Yes, 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to just tag on to your introduction of the horrible, fantastical, mythical bill that was passed. I'm gonna change the adjectives every time, just so you know.
All right.
I want people to not only listen to this information, but take it back to your community, that some of these tax cuts, like the one that 47 put in for the very wealthy, this bill makes those tax cuts permanent.
Yes.
And I think that it's really important that we publish and let people know who voted for it. Because right now, I'm tickled watching some of the commercials here in Georgia, and they're talking about, called Senator Ossoff. He voted against you getting your, no taxes on your tips, and he voted against you getting tax cuts, and he voted against. You call him and you tell him to support the big, fantastical bill. And I listened and I said, they have no idea what's in that bill.
Right.
They have no idea what's in it to say something like this, right? You're not getting the tax cut unless you're some secret billionaires that well, standing there with a rake in your hand, tell me you're not a secret billionaire. And the lady working as the cashier at the grocery store in that commercial, yeah, you're not qualifying. You're not qualifying. So I think it's making sure we deliver that message.
Yes.
Inflation went up, not down. Prices are going up, not down. So I think that I just wanted to say that as we're speaking, we want to enhance the truth. It's about all I say. Enhance the truth, and then give us and then give people some recommendations on resolution and what we can do
what they can do. Yes.
So as you're speaking today, please make sure that, because we don't want these to be just complain. We also want to have some, what are we going to do?
Precisely.
That's all.
In that context, thank you. In that context, I've discussed budgets for many years because I used to teach economics at the university. And I will always challenge people, just think about why we have a government. What's the purpose of our government? You find those 6 reasons in the preamble to the Constitution. So if you build your budget without including those elements, you built an immoral budget. I'm going to be straight to the point here. You built a budget that's not in line with the principles that this country was founded upon. Here's your example. The first word in the preamble is "we the people." In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, promote the general welfare, provide for the common defense, ensure the blessing of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. If your budget does not include elements to support those rationales or those reasons, those principles, then you're presenting a false narrative to the general public on what your budget should be about. I want to give an opportunity for Judge Shaheed and Councilman Shabazz to give their responses. Then we'll go to our impacted people directly in North Carolina, if that's okay. Sister Amatullah, unless you want to make a comment now, if you want to.
No, I can wait.
You can wait. Okay, then. Judge Shaheed?
Yes. First of all, I want to support my sister with respect to Morehouse. I do have a granddaughter that's going there, so look out for her. But I think if I could just give support to what Councilman Shabazz said, and that also fits into this idea that we need to be about action.
Yes.
One of the main things we need to think about, we need to focus on the midterm elections. And one of the things that has happened, and also again supporting my sister who's in Georgia, is that the budget is 10 years, but it's meant so that some parts come into effect after the midterms. And so again, that's a cynical way for let me have Brother Shabazz. I need to get some water. I'm choking. So if you could.
All right, Judge, I'm ready to go. I got you.
All right, and I'll come back after I get some water.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Let me say a couple things. At our city council meeting, which just happened to be Wednesday, our regular city council meeting, I introduced a resolution that was passed 6-3. We have 9 people in the Lang City Council. Unfortunately, my 3 Republican colleagues voted against the resolution. The other 6 colleagues who happen to be Democrats voted for it. And our resolution was opposing the one big beautiful bill and defending the health, safety, and rights of Atlantic City residents. I won't read the whole resolution, but I will just say that my reason for bringing it forth, along with my other colleagues, was that we see the profound impact that this budget bill is going to have on our residents. What do I mean? The people who are involved in Medicaid are on Medicaid, obviously, because they don't have the resources to have private insurance. I don't think you have to be an economist to understand that. One of the rationales that the president and Republican Party uses is they say that this bill will have people go to work. Our statistics in New Jersey says that a majority, 71% of Medicaid adults are already working in New Jersey. So the only is 29% who are not working. And we know that many of those people who are not working have issues that prohibit them from being gainfully employed. Obviously, those of us who are responsible, and that's everybody on this call, understand that everyone who gets benefits has to be eligible legally and morally and ethically to get those benefits. But in New Jersey, Medicaid, 3 in 8 Medicaid recipients, 35% of children, 1 in 5, 2% live in a rural area, and 1 in 6, 18% have 3 or more chronic conditions. 3 or more chronic conditions. So if you make a drastic and serious cut to Medicaid, which this bill does, it is going to negatively impact those people. But here's the other thing that I want people to consider. If people who are on Medicaid have a reduced access to medical care, that means they're going to have to go into the emergency room. If they go into the emergency room, not if, when they go into the emergency room, that's going to put a strain on hospitals in urban areas and rural areas and suburban areas, which means that those of us who are blessed to have private insurance are going to have to pick up uh, that difference. So I would take the position we did in our resolution that the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to SNAP, which are the food benefits, the cuts in educational benefits is going to have a negative impact not only on the people who are directly uh, affected and impacted, but on the larger society as a whole. It's going to have a rippling effect. It's going to have an effect, a domino effect, that is going to, in my opinion, hurt the whole society, hurt our progress as a nation, and push us farther back from becoming a prosperous nation. And Sister Amatullah is right. Imam uh, did a excellent job, Imam Alim Sunday on Study Islam. I would say to those people who are Muslims that we have even greater um, role to play. And those people of faith, not just Muslims, people of faith. If you are a person of faith, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or Jewish or Hindu, any faith path, and you see what's happening in this country, and this doesn't activate you, then something I would say is missing in your understanding of your faith path. Because we have things in this country that are not just politics and not just Democrat or Republican, but go further than that. And even on a public policy issue, those of us in government, Brother Fleming, you know this, David Shaheed, you know this, and other people who are familiar with government know that when a budget is passed and funds are allocated for a particular purpose and approved, that people who are receiving those funds have a right to believe that the budget that was cast will be implemented. What the president did with the shameful uh, 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 backing down of their duty by the Congress and the Senate passed what they call a rescission. In other words, people who had a budget process that was voted on by elected officials and presented to the public as the blueprint that would govern the spending in the coming year, they took that money back after it was allocated, which I believe and I would say is morally bankrupt, is something that should not happen. Those of us who have the ability to set public policy and the responsibility to set public policy should never, ever do that. And I would just say that this shows really what kind of struggle that we're up against. This is not just a political struggle. I would say respectfully, and you can study this, those people who know history, this is more than a 50-year struggle by people who believe that, number one, America should be a white Christian nation. That number two, people of color are inherently inferior. That number three, that people who are poor should not have an equal say in how their government should be run. That's what this is all about. And it has come to a culmination that they have a president who will go by that playbook and will say and do and enact policies and procedures and laws to indicate that. I saw a thing this morning. Now the president says that he wants the Washington football team to go back to using the term Redskins, or he's not going to approve them getting a new stadium. I don't even know if he has the ability to do that, but that's not the point. The point is that you have millions of people who believe that America in 2025 should not be diverse, should not be multicultural, and should be what it was going back to the bad old days of America. And that's the context I think we have to look at this struggle in, and that's the context I would suggest that we have to fight this on. It's not just a political struggle. That's where we lose people, because people are cynical. They dropped out of politics. They don't want to vote for anybody, and they think that everybody is the same and doesn't make any difference who you vote for. I have people in my district that said that. I would say if they look at what's happening in this bill and they look at what's on the horizon, they will come to the conclusion that it does make a difference who you vote for. It does make a difference who's making policy. It does make a difference who's in charge. It does make a difference if a person believes in the equality of men and women and all people. It makes a difference of that, or whether they want America to be a white Christian nation. So I think that is where we're at in 2025. I wish I had a different report. It doesn't give me pleasure as an American who has centuries of blood, sweat, and tears in this country. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say that the president of the United States uses racism and uses misogyny and uses Islamophobia to cement his standing among people who support him. I wish that I didn't have to make that report. I wish I didn't have to say that we have a president who speaks against people of color, who talks about people in Ohio was eating cats and dogs. He actually made that comment. The governor of Ohio, who is a Republican, said, no, that's not true. The mayor of Springfield, Ohio, where the president and the vice president said that happened, said that's not true. The township administrator in Springfield, Ohio, said, no, there are no people eating cats and dogs, taking cats and dogs. But still, we have a president who never backed away from that comment, the statement, and said it was true, and a vice president who doubled down on it. So we are at a stage in America that's where we're at. And I would suggest that the only way that we are better, the only way that we get out of it is that we continue to unite, that we continue to, people of like minds, come together to push for democracy and push for the higher values that America is supposed to have, that we haven't realized, but that we hold those values to be important and reachable, and that, I think that's where we're at. And Brother Fleming, I think you ought to be. This is where we're at. I hope Brother David Shaheed is
Yes,
able to
yes,
come back.
I'm better. I've got my voice back, and
You got me talking, brother. I'm in my office, so
yes,
listen. I'm fired up about this because
yes.
this
Well,
is such an
Councilman
important issue.
Shabazz said essentially the main points I was going to make. The only other point that I would make is that, Brother Fleming, you mentioned Department of Ed, and that the budget is meant to dismantle the Department of Education. Those of us who know our history knows that Department of Education primarily came online to enforce the civil rights aspect of Brown versus Board of Education.
Right.
And so by defunding the Board of Education and by diminishing DEI, it's an attempt to rewrite history and to take out the accomplishment and the participation of African Americans into the history and the fabric of America as it exists.
Absolutely.
And so the only other point I would want to make is this. We also have to look at the bright side of things. One of the things that, again, I would focus as Councilman Shabazz on the midterm elections. And we have to remember that first and foremost, those of us who are on the call as Muslims, we have to remember that we have to show up as Muslims every day. We can't do it just when things are going well. We have to show up every day as Muslims and recognize that there is an authority that we represent and respect. And who would have thought the main leading candidate for mayor in New York would be Zoran Mandemi.
Mandem.
Mandemi. And that to me is a sign that if we organize ourselves, and as one of you said earlier, we have to connect with people of like minds and people who mean well and people that are looking for justice. The Quran says so clearly, La ikraha fi din, there's no compulsion in religion. Truth stands out clear. And so we have to uphold those values, even if America and the American government is turning away from the idea of every man and woman having a voice and representative democracy like the founding fathers were about, even though they were racist at their core. But they did uphold the values, and they were educated men trying to respond to tyranny in England. So what we're moving back to is the kind of tyranny that they were trying to move away from. But we have to remember that God is in charge, and if we represent the best, God will give us the victory. We may not see it in the way we want to see it, but God will give us the victory that that our souls hunger for.
Yeah, Shahid, that's the motivation I think that Dr. Barber always brings to the attention of the general public, especially when he talks about the poor people in this country who are never mentioned hardly by elected officials. When you have so many people dying just because of the poverty level, and to have 46 million people in this country on the poverty level or below, it's a dynamic insult to people who are in that condition. So we're going to have to galvanize that group as we do basically four things: organize, strategize, implement, and evaluate what we're doing. Organize, strategize, implement, and evaluate what we're doing to make it more effective. And that's a methodology for any of us, regardless of your religious foundation, to work with other people of like-minded. How are you organize? How are you strategizing? What are you implementing? And how are you evaluating your efforts? And then go back and review that and improve upon that methodology. I think that's a foundational action plan we can take with us into our communities. Sister Amatullah Alaji, to ignore you, you want to make a comment before we go to our North Carolina Coordinating Committee participants?
Yes, I'm going to try to. I'm not going to take a Fleming 30 seconds, so I'm warning you in advance. It will be longer than a Fleming 30 seconds.
That's an inside joke. That's an inside joke.
I want to make some comment on some of the points that Council Member Shabazz made. I agree with him. I agree with everything that he said. I think there are some nuances also in some of the points that he highlighted. It's not. I think if we look at what the administration and former administrations have done, both Republican and Democrat, but if we look at this moment in time of, let's look at taking away the SNAP benefits from those who need it. And a lot of times people project the welfare queen is the inner city woman who is either African American or Latina, are the ones who are gaming the system. Whereas the majority of people who get welfare benefits are Caucasians.
That's right.
Many of them in rural areas, all right? The rural poor. Again, going back to that issue of poor. So it's not just a race issue, it's also a social status issue, as this wannabe dictator tries to implement this oligarchy. And many people, yes, are cynical. And they say it doesn't matter one, it's just like the other. In a sense, that's true. The Democrats, the Biden administration, their position on Gaza was inhuman, immoral, um, uh, based on a Zionist ideology, which does not deal with the equality of human beings. And you see the same thing on the right with the Republicans. So I think I'll speak for myself, there is no choice between the two. Both of them are immoral stances. Um, and also, I think people have to evolve to realize that it's not just the president. And this president is an excellent example of it because he has been successful in gangstering and thugging and threatening. When he was in good terms with Musk, he had more money to back up the whole idea of you'll be primary if you go against what I want you to do. And so it's not just him; it's the people that we in our local areas have sent to the Congress or sent to the Senate. And I think we have to be more educated and stronger, organizing on the local area so that people know you can't just come around to me when it's time for the primaries to get my vote. I have to see that you um, represent my interests, or at least can be persuaded to represent, if not all, some of my interests before you get my vote. And I think that's important for us to realize. And then the other thing is people of faith and in the interfaith movement, we have to realize that this whole political process has been corrupted by Citizens United, and you got so much dark money in the game that money is ruling these politicians. We get people in there who they're so busy and worried and concerned about winning the next election that they're either campaigning all the time and raising money all the time or afraid at the money that will be spent against them when it comes time for elections. So we can't ignore the money and the lobbyist influence um, in the political system here.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, I agree with Judge Shahid and also Councilmember Shabazz. We have to focus, I believe, on these midterms coming up, and I think we need to organize now. I think we need to support organizations like Fair Fight because vote suppression was a key tool that was used to get the felon back in office. And that's why he was so concerned because they had a national effort to get Black, um, Latino, and Asian American voters off the voter rolls, and people were not aware that they were off the voter rolls or that their vote would count. And this was an organized effort through at least 23 states were part of this one network that would produce lists of people that they could get um, erased from the voter rolls and therefore get their people in. And you see now, shameless Governor Abbott in Texas, you see what he's trying to do in terms of getting this redistricting in the hopes, they're already planning in the hopes that they can get 5 more seats in the Congress. So it won't be so hard in trying to get legislation and whatever they want passed. So I think we have to vote on vote suppression. We have to look at people like Tim Scott, who uh, in the Senate when he was working with, I think he was working with Cory Booker and trying to get the Voting Act passed. And then at the last minute, um, he did an about turn. So we have to look at voter suppression. We have to look at, like Cheryl mentioned earlier, who were the people on both the Democratic and Republican side who voted for this big um, bill, and what can we do to counteract the effects of the bill? What are the solutions that are open to us? Is there a possibility of, through recession, I think you said it was rescinding or recession?
Rescission.
Rescission.
Rescinding.
Rescinding.
Rescission, sis.
Okay. Is it a possibility of doing that so that if we get at least one of the houses to change over or to um, mitigate these things that go out in that 10-year cycle? Can we um, claw back the tax credit and advantages that the rich have gained? And if so, how can we do it? And let's start working on that now. Finally, I just want to draw attention to what Imam Muhammad has said in his publication that Ronald Shahid published called Attaining the Ethical Society. And I think we've been talking about this. They have ethics committees to watch over the thinking of the leaders in government that will affect their performance and also affect the nature of our society if they do not respect the rules of ethics on them. You don't just plan and write laws and organize activities with your brain. Do it also with consideration for moral obligations on you. Then, when you have thinkers respecting that, you're going to have an ethical society. He also went on to say in the section, Where is the darkness and where is the light? In this age of science and technology, more and more of us humans are accepting that the earth mothered all of us, and by and large, we humans are more good than bad. Hence, with our different colors, facial features, languages, political ideas, and religions, we all have the same birthrights. We have the right to share space here, and we have the right to dream of a better existence. That is to say, each member community has a right to its own plans, to the future of its own dreams. What lights the way for each of us to dream, to plan, and to work out a better future for ourselves here is a present and growing willingness among ethnic groups to tolerate each and to give equal recognition and respect to each other. The more we are moved to get acquainted with each other, to know more about what we separately live for and what we will die for, the more we grow to like what is admirable in all of us, to invite and welcome contributions of excellence from each of us into our worlds, the brighter the future will be for us all. And
Mm.
that is from Attaining the Ethical Society. It's a small book, but it's the thoughts of W.D. Muhammad, and I think it's an excellent resource for us in terms of developing the strategies that Brother Fleming is talking about and evaluating, what kind of progress that we make and what kind of progress we need to continue to make. That's it, Brother Fleming. That was an Alaji minute.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, you've been influenced by someone. I won't say who that is, but we'll keep that between us.
Well,
but thank you very much for your comments. I want to give everyone a chance who've been waiting some time now to make their comments from the participants in the audience. We want to recognize them. So if you want to make a comment at this point, please raise your hand, and I'll try to refrain from my 30-second comment until later on. But I do want to come back to what things our sister said in a few minutes. So if you'd like to make a comment, please feel free. If you raise your hand, we will recognize you. I know I'm a co-host. I'm trying to see. I'm on my phone.
I don't see any hands raised.
No hands are raised.
I don't see any hands. No hands are raised, but I do want to say that we're talking about, Sister Amatullah brought it up, and I believe Councilman Shabazz, but I'm talking about what's happening with in particular Texas when it comes to the voting. I just was on a meeting yesterday to reemphasize that the Voting Rights Act is a federal law, and it is it is affixed to the 15th Amendment. And so it's not as easy as what is being said in the news, in the public sphere, that someone can come and just ignore the rules that the VRA, Voting Rights Act, has put forth. They can try, and the only reason that they will ever get away with it is if the people let them get away with it. There is no right to redistrict based on preference or to change, especially in the midterm, unless it's there's very few exceptions because districting is based on the census. So I'm saying that not to Councilman Shabazz or to Judge Zahid, but I'm saying that to the audience. So the audience isn't like, because I did see where Governor Newsom and a couple of other governors were in country like areas, and like Newsom said to complete that game. And then other people joined in, like, well, if you're going to do it in Texas, we're going to do it in all the blue states. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It must follow the rules for the Voting Rights Act, which is not to be confused with the still pending John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which was going to be the update. But this Voting Rights Act was before I was born. I think is it 1965? Somebody?
65, I believe.
Okay.
65.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody
65.
So Voting Rights Act of 1965 has withstood all kind of challenges and attempts to go around it, under it, through it, above it, and it has not even in Republican strongholds. So I would say that we need to make sure, again, I'm going to go back to teaching and educating the public, right? Because that goes to what Sister Amatullah was talking about people, and Brother Shabazz, excuse me if I get it wrong, about people just like, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be involved in politics because of things like that. But if they know that a lot of it's just true, and a lot of it is talking something enough times, doesn't make it true, but it makes enough people believe it.
Right.
You have a president who keeps saying he's a billionaire, he's a very brilliant businessman, and he's bankrupt how many companies?
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to bankrupt United States what it looks like. So just because you say it enough times, or you scream it, or you holler it, or you get animated, this still does not make it right.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sister
It's
Cheryl. Yeah, there's one caveat I would make reference to in terms of the Voting Rights Bill of 1965. They weakened it when they attacked Section 5 of that bill, which said they had to come to court to change anything related to district lines. And they basically said there was no need for that in that bill. Now, Judge Shahid, I'm sure, can give more details on how that happened. But that part of it really weakened the gist of the Voting Rights Bill of 1965. And I'll be very specific. In North Carolina, whenever there's an election, whoever has the majority, I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, the first thing they do is deal with those district lines to try to maintain power. In other words, to make sure they elect the voters instead of the voters electing them. And I'll be specific. In the last election, the count in North Carolina, we had 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats. The year before that, or the election before that, it was 7-7. 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats. So those lines were drawn surgically to remove certain parties out of contention and to put other parties in. And each party would do that to a degree when they come into the leadership, when it comes to the numbers they have in the state legislature. So that does happen across the board, but they get that permission from them weakening Section 5 of the 1965 Voting Rights Bill. Now, what's the solution to that? What they're trying to do in a state like Ohio is come with a commission that's not Republican nor Democrat, but a nonpartisan commission to actually draw the lines, which removes that element out of that whole conversation where it's not just based on party lines. And that needs to be done. I think Eric Holden is pushing that idea on a national level, the former Attorney General for President Obama, and he's been very effective in some states in doing that. Let me ask Brother Sir Boss to put his mic on or silent, if you would. There's no problem. You're taking care of business. All right. He's muted. All right then.
He's muted, yeah.
And so I just want to encourage people to really pay close attention to the local effort in your state to reduce your ability to vote. Suppressing the vote has become a big game this year because they're trying to take you off the polls, as our sister made reference to earlier. And one thing they use consistently is this: if you fail to vote in 2 consecutive presidential elections, most states have the right to remove you from the books because of your inactivity. If you fail to vote 2 consecutive presidential elections, they have the right, especially in North Carolina, to remove you from the book of voters. Most people don't realize they've been moved until they try to go back and vote because they're not keeping up with it. So I always encourage the public, contact your local board of elections or your state board if you have the website, and make sure you're still listed as a voter. Do that first. And if you aren't registered, whenever they have what we call early voting in your state, you can go to your precinct, you can register again and vote. You can't do that on the election day itself, but in early voting cycle, you have that option. So take advantage of that if indeed your names have been removed from the polls. Early voting is your best choice to actually go in and re-register and vote on the very same day. Some states have a week of early voting. Others have shorter time periods. Whatever it may be, take advantage of it. Some states have what they call souls to the polls on Sundays, where they invite the congregations and remind them, go to the polls after service and make sure you vote today, and also register if you need to do so on this day. They call that event souls to the polls. Just a few action plans you can take advantage of. But by all means, check to make sure your name is still in the polls. We got to do that if it's midterm elections. It's critical, brothers and sisters. And if you talk to people about the election, I'll try to end my 30 seconds with this one. In the last election, when I was registering people to vote, I had a young sister who called me and said, Mr. El-Amin, somebody gave me your name to contact because you're a county commissioner. I said, I served 5 years, but I'm no longer a county commissioner, but I am chair of the State Ethics and Qualifications Board for the state of North Carolina. How can I help you? She said, I'm not registered. I want to register, but I'm also bedridden and I'm blind. She was bedridden and blind. So I said, listen, what I will do, as soon as my wife gets home, we will call you back and we'll both come to your house and make sure you get the forms you need. In fact, I used to be on the Board of Elections here for 2 terms. I went by and got all the forms she needed to register. I said, listen, I'm going to take these forms down to the office myself and give them to the director, and I'm going to stand there until he processes your paperwork. Then I'll call you back and make sure that you, of course, registered to vote. But just her being in that condition, remember what I said, she was bedridden, she couldn't move, and blind. And all she wanted to do, she said, Mr. El-Amin, can I shake your hand because no one else came by? And I've called 5 people, and you're the only one to come by. So that kind of resolve, of course, inspired me to really stay active. We have to do our part to make this country better. We got a lot of problems, but the lifeline of this country, as Imam Warfi Muhammad said quite often, is in the 2nd paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They should have said men and women, but you're talking about unenlightened people back in the 1700s. But that idea that the creator only can give you certain rights that no government can take away from you, that's a fighting principle. It's also a Quranic principle. It's also a faith principle. No government, I don't care who's in the White House, has the right to take those from you. So let's band together as a group with common minds, common value systems, and don't bend our back, but stand up tall so no one can crawl on your back and make you do anything that your conscience doesn't say you should do to move humanity forward. I want to give people a chance to make their comments. If you see any hands raised, please feel free. Otherwise, I have about 30 more seconds.
No, but we have, let me see, we have 3 people that we haven't heard from. If they would like to make a
Oh,
comment,
three.
they could unmute themselves. Mr. John Chase is currently muted. If you have a comment or a question, you can unmute yourself and make your comment or ask a question. Okay, he unmuted himself. Mr. Chase, the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much. This has been a very interesting conversation. I think I missed it. How much time do I have?
30
have
seconds.
Take as
30
much time as you
seconds.
need.
We got a Fleming El-Amin, 30 seconds.
We'll give
You
you
have
3
30
more minutes,
seconds for
John.
Fleming, or you have an Amatullah Alaji-Sabrie. They
Wait a minute. I think I
legal
heard.
names.
I think I heard 3 minutes. Was that the?
Yes, go ahead,
Yeah,
John.
go
I know
right
you.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Go for
Take
it.
your 3 minutes, John.
Okay. All right. Well, I've been writing down all of these negative things that are going on, all these issues that are brought up by the other side, which just confuses the sometimes the real issues. The issue of the young, now that's coming from an old man here, so I don't know if maybe I'm biased on that. The issue of the truth in this country, we seem to have lost that. The norms, we haven't lost it. There's push from the other side to cut into the truth and the norms and the voting. I voted by mail this last time just to see what it was like, and it was hard. It was hard. It wasn't so hard for me because I got a printer right over here beside me to Xerox my driver's license and stuff. But not everybody has that, and it's just doesn't need to be that hard. I worked in Nicaragua for quite a while, just on a limited basis. But after the revolution down there, nice little democracy. Then after 15 years or so, we build through the same things that we're seeing now in our country, and now there's a brutal dictatorship. I asked one of my friends down there a few years ago, how did this happen? He said, the economy was pretty good, and we just were not paying attention. And that's, we're doing the same thing here. It's hard to pay attention because you get back to all of these issues that as part of their strategy is to just inundate you with all these different issues. They want to give you a chance to respond to one issue before they're on to another issue. And then, what to do about it? I mean, I can just get very, very negative about it from time to time, but we can't. And I grew up somewhere in the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War, and there were times I thought we're not going to win this civil rights movement. No, the South is too entrenched and too violent, and we're not going to win it. And we're not going to come out correct on this Vietnam War because we're just going to go over there and bomb all these people and then come back home to ticker tape parades. Well, darned if we didn't kind of win both of those. I mean, we didn't win either one of them perfectly, but we got Martin Luther King holiday now, and the Vietnam Memorial is black marble. It's underground. It's got the name of the dead, and it's in the shape of a V. So we came out ahead. But what do we do now? We got to do small things. We got to do a lot of small things. And one of the things that I'm doing, and I'm getting a lot of sustenance and inspiration from, is out protesting on the street corners. And I tell people that we try to recruit into that business is it's not what the protesters do to the cars and people walking by. It's mainly what the protesters do to themselves. If they're out there doing these things, it gives you a sense of, I can do something. I've got new friends. I've got inspiration from this. And in doing something like that, or somehow that we come together. We can't sit at home and I say we can't sit at home and read books. We need to read books, but we've got to do a lot more than sitting at home and reading books. And so somehow that we can come together. And that's my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, John. We have to get in some good trouble sometime, some very good collective trouble to keep this process going.
Yes.
And don't lose faith and hope. I think there's an element in all of us on this call that has a residence and a reservoir of faith. And with your faith, that little peck can move mountains. So a seed of faith, the weight of a mustard seed, if that's your foundation to operate from, you don't get discouraged because you have poor little rich boy in the White House at 1600 Union Pennsylvania Avenue. You keep on fighting the fight. All right, there are a couple other people that have not said anything at this point.
Yeah,
I don't
there
think
is.
Mustafa Shabazz has said
Yeah,
anything yet, has he?
yeah, there's Brother
Go ahead,
Mustafa.
sister.
Brother Mustafa, he's on mute, and Brother Ishmael. So either one, you can unmute yourself. If you have a question or a comment, we'd appreciate your participation. Don't be shy.
Brother Ishmael is usually working and listening.
Yes.
So he may not be in a position to answer. And Sister Imani's back on, just FYI.
Oh, okay. Yes, she's back on. Also, Brother Fleming, Sister Imani did have a question of, did you complete your summary of the areas of the bill we need to focus on? I know you talked about the Department of Education. You talked about the tax cuts. In North Carolina, is there another element of that bill that directly affects the people of North Carolina?
Yes, the ones I didn't mention specifically was Medicaid cuts, the SNAP food
Medicaid.
assistance cuts. Yes, Medicaid, SNAP, food assistance cuts. The additional budget impacts on North Carolina, the additional ones are shift disaster response, costs from FEMA to the state. I made reference to that, but just imagine the kind of tragedies we have had just recently with this flooding. The states cannot carry that burden by themselves. They need federal assistance. Another one, of course, was cut premiums, tax credits. They keep healthcare affordable. So what they're doing is undercutting the opportunity for people who have affordable healthcare to be funded again, which means they can't afford to pay those premiums. Once those premiums go up, what will happen? They'll come off and have no coverage and no care. And we know what that was like before President Obama got the Affordable Care into law. So those are key things as well we need to keep our eye on. And of course, we've talked about the Medicaid cuts. And the tragedy behind that is that many people don't realize that a lot of our assisted living facilities, a lot of those people in those facilities rely on Medicaid and Medicare to pay the expense for being there. And if you remove those cuts, a lot of those places, especially in the rural areas, will close down. What happens to the population of senior citizens? Their families cannot afford to take care of them. That's why they're there. So you're creating a massive amount of misery unnecessarily on the average working person as a result of some of these cuts. So we have to have an action plan. We have to have action plans to deal with these issues. And this midterm election is strike number one. Strategy number one, these midterm elections. Anyone who voted for this plan, and I've looked at the blueprint that this guy uses, the Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, brothers and sisters, is the brain trust behind this guy. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, there are 4 African Americans on that group who also helped write that whole blueprint. So we have to talk about the whole thing and not part of the thing. And those people in the current administration, 80% of them came from the people that wrote that document or people that were recommended by them to be a part of the administration. So we can't just dismiss Project 2025. It's a long document, but they do have executive summaries. But if you look at it casually, you'll see he is doing specifically what they programmed him to do. The guy's not that smart. He's following somebody else's blueprint. He can't put together 2 sentences without breaking verbs. So it's not him doing the thinking. It's someone else behind him doing the thinking for him. And I hate to use another 30 seconds, but I want to give everybody else a chance to make comments if they like to make comments at this point. It is now, I think, 2:30, almost 2:40. So anyone else like to make a comment about this matter, please feel free to do so at this point about this big B budget.
Yeah, let me add this in so that you guys can play with it. But the one that I think it's underrated and is underground, and I think it was Judge Shahid who said this about limiting who's educated, who can get a job, who can be a citizen. All of those things are in this bill. And the one that sticks out as a parent who's doing in the midst of it right now is the cutting back on monies for higher education. That is going to affect every single aspect of our lives. Because if your students can't get an education, so, you know, the grants, the scholarships, the endowments that colleges have, wanting to tax those endowments. The whole purpose of having, you know, nonprofit organizations that collect the money is so it won't be taxed. But if you're not going to walk lockstep with the administration, that's the threat, right? This is threats. And then taking away the loans. Oh, well, we're doing this so students don't finish in debt. So you can't go over a certain amount for undergraduate and then also for graduate school, so you don't have debt that's $200,000-$300,000. While it sounds good, there's nothing being done to balance that, to make sure that the colleges aren't charging, you know, $300,000. You just won't get the education. So there's no balance there. And throw another wrench into the game, they are cutting back on Parent Plus loans so that parents can't even assist their children with getting these education. And that's a huge, it's a huge win for the administration. I tell you why. Because they've been crying for years, decades. I mean, probably most of my life, there's not enough workers in the United States. So I always say follow the money, and I always say follow the rationale for the money. There's not enough workers in the United States. We've been importing too many workers. Well, if people are not educated because they can't afford it, they're going to take the jobs that are available, and they want to bring back manufacturing to the United States. In order to bring back manufacturing to the United States, what do you need? You need workers. And you need workers who are willing to accept these meager wages, right? So all of these strikes that's happening, if you sit in the room and listen, they're not just saying they don't like it, they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. And so that's the cycle we're in. I got to pay $20 an hour at the fast food place, and today's fast food day. I got to pay this for we just have this garbage strike that's happening nationwide, right? I don't want to pay them $70, $80, $90,000. This is not Cheryl, so don't nobody come at me. Not Cheryl. Say, or, you know, a hotel worker strike or service industry strike, period. The thing is to check people and put them back into their place. In order to have a successful billionaire class, you know, you got to have a donor class, and you've got to have not just a working class, but you got to have people who are at the bottom. It doesn't work in any other way. It won't work. So they got to figure out how to starve the people. And the last thing I'll say is, Mr. Chase, I think we're in the I wasn't alive in the Civil War, but I think I'm alive now, and this is a Civil War. It has all the makings of a Civil War. Es todo.
But two very quick comments on higher education. If some of you know that my daughter works at Duke University, she has her PhD in public health policy, and her budget for research has been cut substantially. That's one element of how this is impacting that part of higher education. My other daughter just finished her coursework to complete her doctorate, so she's writing her dissertation at North Carolina State in civil engineering. But she's had 4 people in her program to leave the country who are from other countries. 4 people. Now, you don't have that many people in a doctoral program specializing in civil engineering as a part of what this person in the White House is trying to implement when it comes to immigrants. So you have that element, you have a cutting in resources. So what is the quality of life we want to see in this country? What is our vision for this country? What is our idea in our mind to make this country a more perfect union? Do you see that now occurring? Or do you have some kind of other vision that's a little bit more equitable, fair, and more grounded in morality? We have to bring that forward because we're here. And as Imam Muhammad said quite often, he don't see ships leaving the country that often. Most people trying to get here at one point. So we got to, take a position, fight for that position, and of course, organize with others, strategize with others, implement with others, and then evaluate what we're doing. We owe it to our great grandchildren to make this country what we think it should be instead of letting it go by and we sit on the sidelines complaining. We got to be in the field, not just and make it a contribution, not just criticizing the field, in my humble opinion. In other hands, unmute yourself. Please feel free to make your comments. This is
Yes,
MAP5.
I just
We invite you to
want to
participate.
support. I just want to support what Sister Cheryl said, and I think it's a very astute observation. Many of us know historically about the Civil War, and we know about the limited access we had to be a part of that Civil War because some of us were on the plantation. But this is Civil War 2.0, and this is really going to determine what America is like for the next 100 years. So I just want to support my sister in saying that we should see this as an opportunity to have our voice heard about democracy and what America should look like in the future.
Yes, sir.
Sister Amatullah Rani has her hand raised.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, I appreciate all the contributions. I had two things, but I didn't want to interfere with the flow because they were not, they were things related to politics, but not on our particular subject. But one had to do with the deportation of the persons to country in Africa. And I don't know how to pronounce it, Eswatini or something, a country. And it's just, to me, to live in today and just to know that people could just be picked up and sent to a country, and the persons that were sent were not Africans, were not all Africans. I think two were different ethnic groups, to be sent somewhere you have no type of connection or anything. It's just amazing to me that I've lived long enough to see something of that magnitude just to occur. And the second thing had to do with something that I had received with, I thought it was a joke. It had a picture of the present president with a crown on, and it was asking me whether I wanted to purchase this coin, and it actually said it actually used the term, it says President Trump is the mega king, focused on making America the best country in the world, but he would never have gone to the White House without your vital vote in 2024. And then it tells you to purchase this mega coin, and you can have it delivered virtually in your in the mailbox. And it's sponsored by the American Political Action Committee, AmeriPAC. That's yeah. And so it just to okay, with this country being founded the way that it was, and then to have someone that's perpetuating a kingship. I mean, it's so I'm going to close at that point. But those were just two things that that have just amazed me over the last a week or two to just see how we've just deteriorated. So that's I just wanted to share that we do have somebody who's actually has a picture, a coin with this man with the crown on, and accepting that idea. So
What's the price of the coin, Amatullah?
well, they ask you for any donation.
Hmm. He's a master grifter for sure. He's a master grifter for sure. Thank you for that.
All right.
Yes, thank you very much.
Let
He's
me
also
say this.
promoting cryptocurrency. He's also
Yeah.
promoting cryptocurrency investments too, and he's still selling his golden shoes and the Bible. You can name a whole slew of things he's trying to market on the American people with that same old marketing thing that he tries to get away with, making money off people's not knowing. That whole concept of no king, there was a series of rallies across the country. I mean, thousands of people showed up across the country protesting that same concept. No King Donald. No King Donald. I mean, masses of people across the country. Miss Maddox had a good program, BC, but it was not picked up by the other major medias. But there's a lot of dissatisfaction with that instead of just accepting that. Brother Shabash, you wanted to make a comment?
I did. We had a No Kings March here in Atlantic City. We had close to 800 people. And you're right, there were millions of people across the country. That's what gives me hope. Even though we have with Brother Shahid, Sister Amatullah, Sister Cheryl, and yourself and myself, although we have indicated a lot of negative things that are happening, a lot of disheartening things, a lot of anti-democratic things that are happening, I am heartened by the fact that I see people across the country coming together, organizing. I think that Dr. Barber is doing with his Moral Mondays. I see that happening across the country, and I'm encouraged by that. And I think that that's going to grow. One thing we can tell you chapter and verse about Donald Trump in Atlantic City. We had him here when he had casinos that he ran into the ground, but we know him. And although none of us can predict the future, we know who holds the future. I can almost guarantee you that President Trump will continue to do things that will galvanize right thinking people to organize against him. He's going to continue to be racist. He's going to continue to be against poor people, against women, to say provocative and things that are just off the hook, as we say. And that is going to be, along with our righteous indignation, going to help nonviolent organizations, peoples, and groups to continue to come together to move forward. And he is terrified of the midterms because one of the things sisters asked about the budget, if you get a Democratic majority in the Congress, uh, and the Senate, a lot of those long-term budgetary things that have been done can be overturned. So that's why he has Abbott trying to do what he's doing with redistricting, which is not going to work. That's another story. But I think we have to focus short term on the midterms, which is coming up. It seems like a long time, but it's not. We got to get people mobilized, educated, aware, and I think we have to keep stressing the commonalities that we have with people of like mind, and I think if we keep doing that, we're going to be successful.
Yes,
I love it.
yeah.
Before we close,
Can I make a comment?
yeah. Yeah, right
Yes.
before you do, I just want to say something really quick. Before we close out, I have a question for everybody. That was it. Go
Okay.
ahead, sister.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment from earlier. One point that I missed that I wanted to make was he has surrounding him in his cabinet people who really have put loyalty and their own aggrandizement above being human and respecting the human being of other people, and especially children. Now, when we talk about the cut and the SNAP benefits, that's a domestic policy. On the foreign end, I don't know how many may have heard about the tons of this malnutrition pack that USAID
Right.
had in a warehouse
Yes.
in Doha. Okay, so now rather than to distribute that, what they already had, they chose Marco Rubio. He has to meet his Lord on the day of judgment for this decision. They burned millions and millions and millions of packs of this nutrition for people who are starving,
Yes.
rather than to disperse them.
Mm.
It had already been paid for, already had been budgeted and paid for, and rather than distribute it to children who are dying, they chose to burn it. And so that's the beast that we're dealing with.
Mm.
We're dealing with a human being who has left his humanity, not just him, but that mindset and that thinking in the government officials he has around him and in the people in his base, in his party, who support that kind of activity. And
Mm.
so
Yes.
we have to realize that we're really fighting, and scarcity and the fear of scarcity is one of the number one tools that satanic mind uses to force people to do the bidding of the devil.
Yes. And the use of politics of fear as a constant methodology to make
Right.
people think a certain way. It's all boils down to the politics of fear, supported by the prince, the book called The Prince, to do anything you think you should do to get an end met. But that's a very satanic, diabolical, cruel way of looking at people.
Right.
And that's what he has around him, unfortunately. He has minions, as I would call them, following his beck and call, but they don't have the final say so. I would encourage us to look at those specific districts on the congressional side in the midterm elections. We really only need 4 across the country to make a difference. On the Senate
Right.
side, 2. So it's not impossible to achieve that if we have a strategy in place to make it happen. So don't give up hope. Give hope to those who would like to work with you to make a difference in this country. I think we owe it to ourselves. In my case, I have 13 grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm anticipating some great grandchildren soon, and so I'm
Wow.
going to be fighting until the Lord calls me home to make this country better than it is today. That's my hope and prayer. We only have about 4 minutes left, and Sister Cheryl wants to ask us a question. I got to give her that opportunity. Sister Cheryl.
Thank you. Yes, I don't anticipate any great grandchildren because I don't have any grandchildren. So stop your bragging. Stop your bragging. Let me see. Today is I want to end this on a note of hope, but also just a little light. It's a little heavy right now.
Mhm.
Today is National Snack Food Day.
It
So
certainly
you get to
is.
cheat today if you're eating right and all of that. So my question to all of you is, what's your favorite snack food?
Mm.
See?
Mm.
What's your favorite snack food? And you only get to pick one. Don't give me a whole list. One. What is your go-to snack item?
Mm.
Pick one. Now
And
I'm a vegan, and
I
so
hope
you
my
know I
wife is
like.
not listening, right?
She's not
Ice
Go
listening.
cream.
ahead.
She's not
I'm gonna say
listening. What
ice cream.
You're gonna say what?
flavor ice cream?
He said ice
Ice cream.
cream.
Oh,
He
ice
said ice
cream.
cream. What flavor?
Yeah.
What flavor? What you gotta have? You gotta have a flavor.
Grapes.
Tell us the flavor.
Oh, any flavor? No, vanilla, coffee, butter pecan. My doctor's not on, so I can talk.
I go
I'm
for
going to say,
grapes.
yes, sir.
You go for what?
Cashew peanuts are mine.
Judge?
I go for grapes.
Grapes?
Grapes, that's a
Mm.
fruit. That's not a snack.
Stick those in the. If you stick some grapes in the freezer, that's what
Oh,
got us
Lord,
through
have mercy.
childhood in that
Right.
disrespectful St. Louis weather. That St. Louis weather just smack you upside the head. But them frozen grapes, brother after my own heart.
Yeah.
Mr. Chase, what you got?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
boy. Oh boy.
Oh
Homemade?
man. You got me
Homemade?
there.
Homemade. Oh, they got to be homemade.
Gotta
And
be
they,
homemade.
Oh
Gotta be
man.
homemade.
Mm.
You know what?
Uh, Sister Ronnie, what you got?
Well, I can't sell fruit, right?
No, we want a snack.
I'll say my certain granola bar that has some fruit in it. It's a berry granola bar. That's my favorite. I won't say a brand name because I'm not going to give them free advertisement. But yeah, it's a particular
No, but
granola
if you
bar.
say the name, maybe they'll send us
So
some.
maybe it's in
Say,
your
say the
stuff.
name. They might send us some free ones.
Oh man.
It's called
That's
Made
funny.
Good. Made Good.
Made
Berry
good.
granola.
Okay.
Made
I'm gonna
All
tell
good
them.
right.
berry
All right.
granola.
Yeah, we
Berry
need some
granola bar.
sponsors. We need some sponsors. Made good. Shout out to you. Shout out
Oh
to you.
man.
And then okay, Judge Shahid, you gave us grapes. I'm a vegan, so I'm with you on that, but you gotta give us a real snack. What do you sneak and your wife don't know about it and your grandchildren don't know about it? What you sneak in the car?
Trail mix bar.
Trail mix bars?
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
What's the brand? We need some sponsors. Come on. Tell me the brand. You got a brand?
Well,
Oh
I go
man.
generic. I go generic.
Okay, I got you. Sister Alaji-Sabrie, what you got? I think Brother Ishmael is still working.
Mm.
What's your snack?
I'm too cheap to buy the processed snacks. You know, they are crazy with what they charge for the bags of Doritos that they've blown up with the nitrogen oxide or whatever to make sure that it lasts on. So I'm too cheap for those kind of snacks.
What's your go-to? What's the one that you put you used to hide in the cabinet over the refrigerator so your children couldn't reach it?
Oh,
I know everybody has one. It's not just me.
um, this is so hard. It would be mango sorbet.
Oh my goodness.
That's good. That's good.
That is
That's a good one.
good.
That's a good one
Very
because
good.
that's what
Yes.
I love.
Oh
I love
boy.
me some mango
On
sorbet.
an oatmeal cookie? Oh boy.
I don't
Oh,
need the
man.
cookies. I don't need anything else. Just need a nice silverware spoon, and because you can't eat it with plastic, you just need that nice spoon so it's nice and cold. What you got, Brother Fleming? I like that one. What you got, Brother Fleming?
I'm going to start off with those
What's yours?
cashew peanuts. That's my snack food. But rum raisin ice cream. Oh Lord, have mercy.
Ooh,
Oh my goodness. People making me hungry. I got
I got everybody running. Everybody running to the kitchen after this.
Oh man.
Here's mine.
Oh,
wait,
man.
wait.
What's yours?
Jolly Rancher. What you got?
I got one
Sister
I want
James?
to warn everybody about. My wife brought it home the other night in one of these little containers. It's double dark chocolate with raspberry.
Oh my God.
You don't want to go near this stuff because you just not stop eating it.
It's addicting. You know, my
That's
wife brought some of those home too. That's good. I like those.
no.
I love it, love it,
My,
love it.
I tell you, the one. This is what I have now. The Jolly Rancher zero sugar candies. I have to do zero sugar, but the Jolly Rancher get me every time.
what's
But
the name of the brand, sis?
it's Jolly Ranchers. You
Zero
remember
sugar?
having this was
Oh,
zero
okay.
sugar. Zero sugar.
Okay.
You remember Jolly Ranchers and the Jolly
Oh
Rancher
yeah.
stick. I
Oh
loved the Jolly
yes.
Rancher stick when I was growing up.
Okay.
However, if I had, that's what I have now. But if I will throw that across the room, if I get a box from my mom, because I can smell it through the box, she makes homemade pralines.
oh,
And she'll make the pralines for the family, and then she'll make them for me with vegan butter and no like refined sugar, and she'll use all vegan ingredients. And I'm gonna tell you, it'll take out every filling. If you got some caps, you're gonna be lost. But it
your
goes
dinner
so
will
fast. I had to tell her, she used to send them to us and it would say my name and my husband's name on the box. And I said, don't do that. She said, why? I said, because he thinks it's his. I won't get any. And then there's a
no.
good one. I'm not at home, but I'm gonna have to take a picture so I can show it on the next show. If you've never been to St.
All
Louis and had St. Louis red hot riplets, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. It's these potato chips that are made, they're riplets, but they're made and they're just like, I'm not even supposed to eat them because of my throat, but I do, and it have you crying, and you're talking about addictive, Mr. Chase. That right there is addictive. Again, my mother sent the box. I got home. I was traveling for 10 days. I got home and I said, "How many did you send?" She said, "I sent a case. Don't you ever put my husband's name on a box again." Ever,
Sister
because
Cheryl,
he eats.
I'm going to ask you to close out for me. My grandson is knocking on the door out here. I've got to go pick him up. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. Join us next Monday, same time, same place, for MAP5, Muslim American Power 5. Again, peace and blessings be upon you and your family. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. And before you leave, let me say this to you. As we enter this period and there's so much going on, I want you to remember that, faith carries us through. Do something for someone else without the expectation that you're going to get something in return. Stay politically engaged, stay powerful, stay prayerful, stay philanthropic, and have a wonderful, wonderful Monday and a wonderful week. And in the words of my grandmother, change what you look at, and what you see will also change. And with that, we will see you next week right here, same time. Sister Amatullah will be our chief host, but we'll be back here then. And with that, I want to tell you, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Everybody be safe.
Peace.
Walaikum assalam.
Everyone.
Peace.
Have a great week.